Welcome to Stories by Rishik podcast.
Hi, everyone.
So, usually when we talk about a major life milestone, there's this massive, culturally enforced expectation of absolute purity.
Oh, completely.
Take the phrase, I love you. We're just conditioned by, every movie, every song, every romantic novel to view those three words as this ultimate, unshakable pinnacle of truth.
Right. It's like this sacred vow that only ever means one thing.
Exactly. And when it's spoken, the heavens are supposed to part, the music swells, and everything is permanently perfect.
It is exhausting, honestly. Like the amount of pressure we put on those syllables is just wild.
Totally.
We want it to be simple because simple is safe. We treat the phrase as the final destination of a romantic journey, right? This purely positive, life-affirming revelation that magically resolves all the underlying tension.
Like a magic wand.
Yeah. But human beings are, infinitely more complicated and infinitely more messy than a cinematic script.
Which is exactly where today's incredible material comes into play. We are exploring this brilliant, tense, and darkly funny piece of writing titled Two Truths, One Lie.
So good.
It really is, because it asks, what happens when those three words stop being a pure declaration of affection and start being used as a weapon?
Or a tactical shield.
Right, or even like a psychological trap. The author offers this profound, incredibly sharp perspective on human nature, starting with a core philosophical premise right up front.
And that premise is just brilliant. It's the idea that planning completely ruins accuracy.
Yeah.
The thought leadership on display here is fascinating. The text introduces a thought from a character named Sakshi, who she basically points out that love reveals itself only when you stop arranging the lights for it.
When you stop setting the stage.
Exactly. And his entire narrative architecture is built around this singular idea. The premise is that because a character didn't plan it, saying, I love you, happened wrong all three times.
It's a total masterclass in uncovering the subtle, everyday deceit of modern romance. It really challenges everything we think we know about honesty.
It really does.
Let's unpack that concept of forced authenticity for a second, because it strikes such a universal chord. Think about trying to take a truly candid photograph of someone laughing.
Oh, that is the worst.
Right. The exact second that person realizes you're, adjusting the exposure on your phone or framing the shot, their posture stiffens.
Yep. They freeze completely.
They strike a pose that they think looks like candid laughter. And in that split second, the absolute truth of who they are in that raw moment simply vanishes. They're giving you a performance of themselves.
I would actually take that photo analogy even further.
How so?
Well, not only do they give you a performance, but you, as the photographer, have now manipulated their reality.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The moment you introduce an audience, or even just the awareness of an audience, the dynamic fundamentally changes.
That makes total sense.
And that is our mission for this conversation with you today. We're going back to the text to examine three distinct, beautifully observed moments where this supposedly sacred phrase is spoken, and we're going to look really closely at the mechanics of why it shatters.
The mechanics of it are gripping. So let's look at what happens when the lighting isn't arranged by you, but suddenly thrust upon you in the pitch dark.
The midnight scenario.
Right, the first story. The text places us squarely in the dead of night where intimacy is completely weaponized. It's 3:30 in the morning.
Such a specific, isolating time.
Completely. And the setting here is doing so much heavy lifting. Sakshi is fast asleep. That detail is explicitly flagged as crucial in the writing.
She's totally vulnerable.
Exactly. And then her phone suddenly glows blue in the dark room, while his phone stays pitch black.
The visual contrast he paints there is just brilliant. You have the physical illumination of her secrets, right? Like her life outside that room is glowing in this harsh blue light.
Yeah.
While he is sitting there, literally and metaphorically in the dark.
And then a man's name flares across her display. It's loud, it's unfamiliar to him. So he makes this massive decision to pick up her phone, breaking a huge boundary of privacy.
And there is no greeting on the other end.
None. Just heavy breathing and an abrupt click.
So creepy.
Super creepy. So when Sakshi shifts in the bed and, half wakes up to mutter a groggy question about who is calling, he tells a blatant lie of omission. He simply says, wrong number.
And her reaction to this is just wild to me.
It is. She smiles and drifts right back off to sleep. The text describes her as floating on, quote, the kind of reckless trust that invites betrayal.
Let's dissect why that trust is categorized as reckless, though.
Yeah, let's do it.
She is relying entirely on the assumed sanctuary of her bedroom. She doesn't interrogate the situation because, in her mind, Her psychological defenses are powered down for the night.
She thinks she's safe.
Exactly. But his hypervigilance is spiking off the charts. He's wide awake, his heart is probably pounding, and he's processing what he perceives as a massive, threatening intrusion into their shared space.
The asymmetry in their emotional states at that exact moment is just staggering.
It's a complete imbalance.
Which leads to this critical, breathless moment. He leans in, drops his voice to a whisper, and says, "I love you," right against her neck.
Oof.
Right. The text notes it was soft enough to sound like a drift of sleep, but sharp enough to act as a landmine.
A landmine. That is such a specific word choice.
I want to look closely at that analogy. To me, it feels like planting a bug in an empty room or like setting a tripwire in the pitch dark.
Yes.
You leave it there, totally hidden, just waiting to see what the other person does when they stumble over it. But I have to ask you, and I want the listener to think about this too, is it possible he was saying it to comfort her in the night?
Well, I don't think so.
You don't think so? Or was he entirely, like 100%, trying to trap her into a guilty confession while her defenses were down?
I mean, it is entirely a trap. The author's choice of the word landmine is deeply intentional there.
Right, landmines aren't comforting.
Exactly. A landmine does not offer comfort. It sits beneath the surface, waiting for you to make a wrong step so it can blow up your foundation.
Wow.
He is actively testing her subconscious. He drops this incredibly loaded phrase into the dark to see what her unfiltered, half-asleep brain will do with it, hoping she might slip up if she's, harboring guilt about the phone call.
And what does she do? She mumbles it back without missing a single beat. Pure, unthinking instinct.
But the real tragedy reveals itself in the morning light.
Yeah, the next day.
The next day, her memory of the event is completely blank. She was just reacting in her sleep, mirroring her partner's affection out of pure muscle memory.
But his memory, the author writes that his memory was on fire.
On fire.
I cannot stop thinking about that phrase, on fire. So she wakes up with no memory of this profound exchange, but his brain is just burning with it.
It's haunting.
It really is. It feels like he stole a piece of her subconscious while she slept. Like, how does a relationship even begin to recover from that kind of toxic imbalance?
It probably doesn't, honestly.
Yeah.
Because the foundation is now built on an extraction of truth, not an offering of it.
An extraction. That's a great way to put it.
Right. Her unthinking instinct, mumbling the words back, was entirely pure in its mechanics. It was an honest reflex. Yet it was completely ruined by the poisoned context in which it was demanded.
Yeah, he didn't say the words out of overwhelming affection at all.
No. He used them as an interrogation tactic. The truth was spoken, sure, but the environment was entirely toxic.
That performative, manipulative use of intimacy in a private setting is fascinating. But it takes on a completely different, almost absurd flavor when you pull it out of the bedroom and introduce an audience.
Oh, the second story. The card game.
Yes, which brings us to a scenario that is brightly lit, very public, and just dripping with tension. They are playing cards on the rug with a group of friends.
A totally normal evening.
Exactly. They're making up the rules on the fly, having a few drinks, laughing. The stakes are supposed to be incredibly low. But then she loses a hand.
And the punishment for losing is that you have to tell a truth.
Right. She asks for the standard truth or dare, but he pivots. He turns it into a confession.
That pivot is so aggressive.
It really is. He looks at her and says, "Say something that could wreck the whole evening."
He artificially raises the stakes of a casual game night to a dangerous level, completely out of nowhere.
And she doesn't even blink. The text explicitly labels this a big mistake. She tosses out the words, "I love you."
The absolute brilliance of this detail is the delivery, though.
Yes. It is bright, it is meaningless, and it is thrown out, quote, like passing a dish across a table.
So casual.
Can you imagine being one of the friends sitting on that rug?
Oh my gosh, I would want to disappear.
Right. The sheer suffocating awkwardness of your friend's partner dropping the heaviest emotional anchor possible right in the middle of a card game.
And the friends instinctively chuckle to cushion the impact.
They have to.
Yeah, they are desperately using social noise to absorb the shockwave. They're trying to keep the game alive, trying to pretend she just made a slightly edgy joke.
But we have to analyze her underlying motive here. She took a phrase that is supposed to be the ultimate vulnerability and weaponized it as a joke to win a hand of cards.
It's so defensive.
But let me push back on her motive for a second, right? Think about human insecurity.
Oh.
Is it possible she wasn't actually lying? Could she have been telling the absolute truth, but using the structure of the party game as emotional armor just in case he rejected it?
Oh, I see what you mean.
It's like taking a priceless, flawless diamond and hiding it inside a cheap, plastic toy ring from a vending machine.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Right. Because if you hand it to someone and they insult the ring, you can just laugh and say, yeah, obviously it's just a cheap toy. But secretly, you just offered them something incredibly valuable and they completely missed it.
That diamond in a plastic ring analogy is super interesting, but I would argue that if you hide a real diamond in cheap plastic, you aren't just protecting yourself, you are actively testing the other person.
Ooh, good point.
You secretly want them to recognize its true value despite the packaging. And if they don't, you get to be privately resentful, even though you were the one who hid it in the first place.
Wow. Yeah. It is a deeply unfair test when you put it like that.
It is. So we have to look at his reaction. Does he see the diamond, or does he refuse to play the game?
Well, the text says he keeps his face entirely still. He tracks her eyes, hunting for any flickers of panic or genuine vulnerability.
And he finds absolutely nothing.
He just finds, quote, the smugness of a person who thinks the floor will never cave in.
That description is so sharp.
It's incredible. She thinks she has perfectly insulated herself from any emotional risk.
Because he perceives her declaration as a forgery, a fake diamond. Keeping with your analogy, he matches it. He says it back. But he purposefully slows down his voice to match her emotional distance perfectly. He refuses to be the one caught caring more.
The ultimate standoff.
Exactly. He mirrors the forgery so precisely that it cancels out any possibility of real connection.
And the resulting fallout is a masterclass in dark, uncomfortable comedy. The devastating final detail of that scene is that the playing cards stay completely untouched for the rest of the night.
The game just dies.
The tension literally suffocated the room.
They both played their highest emotional card as a cheap parlor trick. The friends might have chuckles initially, but on a subconscious level, everyone sitting on that rug felt the oxygen leave the room.
You simply cannot weaponize a phrase with that much cultural gravity in public and expect a casual, fun atmosphere to survive it.
No way. The floor didn't cave in, sure, but the foundation of the evening cracked permanently.
Right. So we've seen ego protection with friends, and we've seen nighttime interrogation. But the narrative pushes this concept even further into the realm of social defense.
This is my favorite part.
The third story. How do these words function when you aren't just dealing with friends, but actively defending yourself against the broader, crushing weight of societal expectations?
A dinner party.
Yes. The setting moves to a formal dinner party. They are surrounded by acquaintances, people who, as the text brilliantly points out, only know us through snapshots.
We all know exactly the kind of people being described there.
Oh, absolutely.
The acquaintances who only see your highly curated social media existence, the highlight reel of your life, and somehow feel entitled to demand access to your actual private reality.
It's so invasive.
And inevitably, someone across the table drops the most dreadful, invasive question you can ask a couple. When is the wedding?
The ultimate social trap.
Yes.
And the internal reaction to that question is described with this incredible claustrophobic imagery. He writes, I felt the social trap closing in like a velvet drawer.
We really need to pause and examine that. A velvet drawer closing in.
It's so visceral.
That is one of the most accurate descriptions of polite societal pressure I have ever encountered.
The duality of that metaphor is what makes it so striking.
Yeah, because it is velvet. It's soft, it's polite, it's culturally acceptable. The person asking the question is probably smiling and thinks they're being sweet.
But it is still a drawer.
Exactly. You are still being boxed in, shut away, and forced into a confined, predetermined space that you cannot easily escape without looking like an incredibly rude, uncooperative person.
Society lines the trap with velvet so you won't fight back when they close it on you.
That's exactly it.
So how do you escape a velvet drawer without causing a scene? Before she can even begin to stammer out a polite, evasive answer to this nosy guest, he takes drastic action.
He goes nuclear.
He really does. He throws, I love you, right into the middle of the dinner table.
Just drops it.
He says it loud enough to completely mute the room and sudden enough to look like this overwhelming, uncontrollable burst of romantic devotion.
I mean, it's genius.
Think about the last time you, the listener, were backed into a corner at a dinner party. Have you ever deployed affection just to escape an incredibly awkward social situation?
It's probably more common than we admit.
Right, because that is exactly what is happening here.
It is the conversational equivalent of deploying a blinding flare.
I love that. A flare.
Yeah, you blind the enemy, in this case, the nosy dinner guests,
Yeah.
who are demanding a wedding date with this dazzling, high-wattage display of romance.
And while they are temporarily blinded and distracted by the bright light, you make a stealthy escape from the actual question.
Exactly. It's a purely utilitarian defensive maneuver.
And the dark comedy of it is that it is highly instantly effective because, how is society conditioned to react to a sudden, loud declaration of love?
They are instantly disarmed. They have to respect it.
They have to. She turns slowly to him, flashes the perfect camera-ready smile, and repeats it back.
The performance of a lifetime.
And then we get the ultimate indictment of this entire social performance. Clapping breaks out around the table.
But it is described as a dry, performative sound.
That part gives me chills.
Nobody at that table is actually moved by what they just witnessed. They were just following the cultural script.
Right. The guest asked the script question. The couple provided a dramatic script answer to deflect it, and now the table is providing the mandatory script applause.
Everyone is participating in a shared delusion to avoid the awkwardness of reality.
But the real insight, the moment the mask drops, comes during the taxi ride home.
The aftermath.
Right. The public performance has ended, the audience is gone, and they are back in the private, isolated space of the cab. She turns to him, drops the perfect smile, and tells him that was a slick trick.
And she warns him very clearly, do not pull that again.
And he just nods. He accepts the reprimand. But the absolute kicker is his internal monologue in that taxi. He realizes that he never asks her whether she meant the declaration of love or if she only meant the deceit itself.
He actively chooses not to know.
So why do you think ambiguity is safer than the truth for them in that moment?
Because demanding the truth would require acknowledging the terrifying reality of what they just did.
Which was?
In that taxi, the silence between them is heavy with the mutual knowledge that they successfully manipulated an entire room of people using what is supposed to be the most sacred phrase in the human language.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with genuine intimacy. It had everything to do with self-preservation and social evasion. If he asks her for the truth, he might find out that her "I love you" was just as hollow as his.
The illusion would shatter completely.
Totally.
Which brings all of these threads together perfectly. We have journeyed through 3 entirely different applications of the exact same words, and the paradox of intent and timing in this text is just mind-blowing.
It really forces you to think.
We have to synthesize these 3 moments to fully grasp the profound closing revelation of the piece. The narrative ends with this lingering, haunting thought. Somewhere between intent and timing, the phrase "learn to lie without being false."
That sentence is the entire philosophical core of Rusic's narrative.
It's brilliant.
Learn to lie without being false. We have to really think about what that means.
Okay, let's break it down.
In all 3 of these scenarios, the dictionary definition of the words remained completely intact. The syllables were pronounced correctly. The grammar was flawless.
The literal mechanical act of saying the phrase happened. Technically, they were not false.
But the intent.
Right.
The intent was completely divorced from anything resembling genuine affection.
In the midnight scenario, the intent was paranoid suspicion and a desperate need for a confession.
Exactly. And in the card game, the intent was defensive deflection and a protective shield for the ego.
And at the dinner party, the intent was a tactical smoke bomb for social evasion.
So the words themselves were not false, but the timing of their delivery and the hidden intent behind them turned them into massive manipulative lies.
It completely shatters the comforting, simplistic idea that honesty is merely about speaking factually correct words.
Right. Communication is not just vocabulary, it is context.
And then the author leaves us with that final, inescapable trap at the very end of the piece. He writes, "If you think you know which one was real, you are already wrong."
He turns the mirror right back on us, exposing our own biases as readers.
He absolutely does, because human nature dictates that we want to play detective.
We want to figure it out.
Right. As we read through those 3 scenarios, our instinct is to categorize them. We want to justify it. We want to say to ourselves, well, the first one was mostly real because it was an instinctual mumble in the dark.
Or, the dinner party was definitely the most fake.
Exactly. We desperately want to rank them so we can feel a sense of moral clarity.
But the text is telling us that our conventional, romanticized understanding of truth and relationships is deeply, fundamentally flawed.
So flawed.
If you're trying to rank which lie was the most real, you are entirely missing the point.
Which is,
The point is that the exact moment you plan it, the moment you decide to use the phrase as a tool to achieve a specific outcome, whether that outcome is extracting a midnight confession, winning a psychological standoff during a card game, or shutting up a nosy dinner guest, the purity of the phrase is instantly compromised.
it all circles all the way back to that original brilliant point about arranging the lights.
Yes.
The truth of a relationship reveals itself only when you stop trying to direct the scene. The second you decide to use those 3 words for tactical leverage, you have arranged the lights.
You've set the stage.
You have forced the pose, and the raw, unvarnished truth vanishes into thin air.
Which leaves us with a fascinating and, honestly, a slightly unsettling final question to mull over.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about it.
If none of these 3 spoken declarations were the real truth, because every single one of them was tainted by calculated timing and hidden intent,
Right?
does genuine love even require a script at all?
That's the real question.
What if the only time the phrase is truly, purely honest is in the quiet, unscripted moments before we start keeping score, before we start plotting our defensive timing, and long before we start worrying about who is sitting in the audience?
Thank you for listening to Stories by Ruchik podcast. For more such podcasts, follow Stories by Ruchik on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Prime Music, and YouTube.